Ionic Bonds by Ryan Schwartz and
Joey Siri.
What is an ion? An ion are charged particles that form when an atom gains or loses electrons.
What is an ionic bond? An ionic bond is a bond that forms when electrons go from one atom to another.
Ionic bonds happen in chemical changes when atoms take electrons from other atoms, and the atom that it took from form ions that have less electrons than protons. So the protons outrule the electrons, which form positive ions.
Metal atoms and loss of electrons. Most atoms of metal have fewer valence electrons. These atoms tend to lose their electrons and form ionic bonds.
The energy needed to lose electrons. You need energy to lose electrons. Only a small amount is needed to take electrons from a metal atom. It is so small that these electrons react very easily. The energy needed to take the electrons from the metal atom comes from the formation of negative ions.
Forming negative ions. Some atoms gain electrons in a chemical change. So the ions that form have more electrons than protons. So the electrons outrule the protons and it has a negative change.
Non-metal electrons gain atoms. The outermost energy level of a non-metal atom is almost full. Only a few electrons are needed to fill the outer shell of a non-metal atom, so non-metal atoms tend to gain electrons from other atoms.
The energy of gaining electrons. Energy is given off by most non-metal atoms when they gain electrons. The easier the atom gains an electron, the more energy it releases. An ionic bond will form between a metal and a non-metal. If a non-metal releases more energy, then it needs to take electrons from the metal atom.
Ionic compounds. When ionic bonds form, the number of electrons lost by the metal atom equals the number gained by the non-metal atom. The ions that bond are charged, but the compound formed is neutral because the charges of the ions cancel each other out. When ions bond, they form a repeating three-dimensional pattern called a crystal lattice. The strong attraction between ions in a crystal lattice gives ionic compounds certain characteristics like brittleness and high melting and boiling points. Thank you for watching our video.